What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I am finally back with this review. I've been working on it forever. Well, meaning to finish it forever. Anyway, I'm here with the DC Collectibles DC Super Villains Owlman. Now, I want to get something out of the way really quick before I even start this review. So a lot of people think that I buy figures because I hate them and I want to complain on my reviews. I hear this a lot, you know, when I come to a conclusion on a figure based on the findings, you know, that I came across after I bought the figure and I reviewed it, you know, and I tried to play with it or I put it up on my shelf or whatever. You know, I come to a conclusion, and this always happens when I have a negative a negative, what's the word I'm looking for? I come to a negative conclusion. The point of the matter is this, right? And the fact is this. I collect action figures because I love superheroes and I love action figures, and growing up I spent a lot of time in between martial arts. If you ever did a sport and it was like your #1 love, you know what I'm saying, or your #2 love or whatever, or you did something very time consuming, you didn't have a lot of time to do other stuff. So my whole life revolved around martial arts and art, you know, illustration. In the early part it was animation, later on it became illustration. So while my friends that were not artistically inclined were playing and shit, you know, I was drawing and I was training. When we were done, me and my brother and some of my friends who had similar, you know, background, we played with our toys. You know what I'm saying? That's what we did. So this is one of those areas that it makes me happy. When I come across a figure that sucks or fails to deliver on that simple promise. I mean, that's what toys do. They're little playthings that make folks happy. You know what I'm saying? When they fail in some way on that, and they don't deliver on that promise, then it gets on my nerves. As a reviewer, though, I am reviewing to you a product, and I'm letting you know what is the plus and the minus of this product, or pluses and minuses of this product. It's not about me just buying shit to hate. That's the dumbest thing in the fucking world. It doesn't make any sense. That's why a lot of times I don't buy every version of every character. It's only the ones that I'm really passionate about and the ones I really like or have some kind of connection to that I'll buy several versions of. With that being said, my DC collectibles, as of late, I haven't been having the best luck with them. It's almost like there's some kind of conspiracy or something. So, you know, I've come to conclusions on those videos based on the quality or lack of quality of the figure. That being said, I'm going to continue with this review. Owlman is a character that I've always liked. I always thought it was cool to have this otherworldly foil to Batman. You know what I'm saying? This when I say otherworld, I'm referring to Elseworlds because he's not from our Earth. The figure is really cool. He's always gotten pretty decent figures, except for the classic Owlman. I always thought that was horrible. Here's his girl, Superwoman, who's also Ultraman's wife. Anyway, my Owlman had 2 left thighs, and that pissed me off right out of the package. I opened him up in the car when I pulled up to my house, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? 2 left thighs. That's the first strike against this figure, and this is me just trying to enjoy the figure, you know. ODC That's Me pointed out how awesome the figures are. The articulation, as you can see, just looking at this picture, you can see all the points of articulation, and there's some that are well hidden, like around his shoulders. Even his ab crunch is nice, and where they put it, it's positioned very nicely on his torso, and it affords him a lot of you know, crouch ability, which is nice. It works for, you know, it's kind of a subtle thing that works for a lot of poses, and I dig it. You know, props to them for that. Here's a very simple pose utilizing his ab crunch. It doesn't look weird. You know how on the not First Avenger, the Winter Soldier cap and all those figures in that line, their ab crunches are kind of strange, except for Zemo. and probably the AIM soldier. Anything using the Bucky cap mold. Well, obviously you can see he doesn't have that problem. Here he is standing next to Batman. I probably should have put his cape back so you could see the body type, but pretty much they literally made this version, which is the version that shows up from Forever Evil. This is the version of Owlman that was, you know, created in Forever Evil. He pretty much is just like a bad Batman. I mean, the design, you got the gray and you got the black, you know what I'm saying? Originally he was like light blue and silver or white or light gray, and it didn't work. Anyway, here he is next to the original Owlman figure that came from the DC Universe Classics line by Mattel. I really dig the first Owlman figure. It's a well done figure. He resembles the one from Crisis on Two Earths. And he was pretty much my reasoning for buying that 5-pack, which is kind of strange. I know, buying one figure for the other, you know, for buying a 5-pack for one figure. But he just is a dope figure. He looks really cool. In some ways, he looks better than this new Owlman. This new Owlman, though, they achieved that thing I always talk about with a good design, where the body looks like it is the suit. And it is the character, it's not just the armor and everything else. It's a little bit more so on the DC Collectibles version and the Mattel version. Anyway, I love the emblem. I love the simplicity of the sculpt. His musculature is awesome. I like the fact that he's got the old school Batman belt with the little pellet looking things. And instead of having a bat symbol, he's got an owl symbol there. The helmet, love the fucking helmet. It was one of those things that he's always had a cool helmet, and this one takes the cake. I love the layered armored plate pieces. I think that's awesome. I mean, like, when I first opened this figure up, I literally spent like an hour or two just looking at all the details. His cape, they carried over a lot of things from the other designs. He's still got the segmented, almost feathery pieces that make up his cape. They just added a cowl over the top portion of the cape around his shoulders. Here he is with these are the Mattel versions of Owlman and Superwoman. They look good. I mean, it's weird when you see the difference between a DC Collectibles figure and a Mattel figure. There's like, the Four Horsemen are really good, but the guys at, I think it was Gentle Giant, the guys at Gentle Giant, they're just like, it's a different, it's such a different style that it's hard to compare them, but in a lot of ways, the Gentle Giant style, it just pulls you in. You can't ignore them. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm wrong, if it's not Gentle Giant, then forgive me. But overall, you know, they're just well sculpted, really well sculpted figures. Like I said before, if you look closely, you can see that finally DC Collectibles has created a body that gives us a lot of the posability that we got used to with the DC Universe Classics line. And you know, the paint is still the paint. It's still good paint. You know, they're doing a good job painting up their figures. There's not a lot of slop. Shit, as far as posability goes, still, you're getting even better or as good as the Marvel Legends. You know, you got the cool ab crunch. I always complain and what's the word? I am an advocate for the ab crunch ever since the Soda Street Fighter figures and many of the Marvel Legends figures, and it just works. And you know, usually the lines are hidden if they cut them right. You know what I'm saying? If you cut the ab crunch in the belly the right way, or in the torso the right way, then you end up with a cool looking figure that doesn't look like you just chopped it up to give it articulation. You know what I'm saying? It's got to follow the shape of the abs, and that works. It works really well. I love it. I always geek out when I see it. The shoulder joints. You see a Marvel Legends shoulder joint, usually it's exposed, you know what I'm saying? On Owlman, not so much. Even though he has a cape, because you can see where the cut starts, the cape kind of helps you keep it, you know, hidden, but the way it's sculpted keeps it hidden too. Double knee joints, that's a staple on your Marvel Legends, and it was a staple on a handful, I think it was wave 16 or 17, the Bane wave of, you know, DCUC. You got that covered here. So, you know, looking at this figure, you're saying, you know, he has comparable freaking articulation to the mainstays, which are DCUC and freaking well, the now dead DCUC and the newly revived Marvel Legends. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I'm not complaining. I love this stuff. I love the fact that they're giving him those abilities. He even has freaking ankle rockers, as well as a swivel. I mean, not a swivel, but a hinge, so he can point his toes for flying poses. But now it brings me to the part where we have problems. DC Collectibles and their fucking QC. I've already pointed out that the, you know, he had 2 left thighs. In the middle of, literally right before I got to the ankle rocker. Jesus, my brain. It's late. It's about 1 o'clock. I'm sorry. I went to put him in a kicking pose. As I moved his legs apart to put him in a kicking pose, which I had done at least 5 or 6 times over the month that I've had this figure, I hear a snap. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's just, you know, pieces rubbing against each other, and I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. The fucking snap, and the leg came right the fuck off. You have no idea how annoyed I am about this shit. It's just weird, you know? Even the other action figures on the table were kind of like, huh? This is DC Collectibles? Yep, this is DC Collectibles. But, you know, that never happened to me. I kick properly. Much better than that. Way better. How does Superwoman feel about that? She just left him. He's like, no, help me, please. And everybody else is just like, man, that's fucking embarrassing. It's super embarrassing. And someone else has something to say about this shit, because it's just unacceptable.
Does that mean what I think it means?
It means the doomsday countdown is proceeding ahead of schedule, 31. Our number is up.
The sun is going to blow up.
Heard it first on WIRD.
I just, man. Shit like this. Man, shit like this really frustrates me because, you know, like I said before, I'm not in it to hate the figure after I paid money for it. I paid $24.99 for this fucking figure, and then he came with 2 left fucking thighs, and the leg fell off when I did something with him, a wide-legged stance, which I had done 50 times beforehand and I didn't have a problem. So it's one of those things. Clearly, DC Collectibles are still using the fucking clear plastic for the joints for these comic-related characters. Me and ODC, that's me, we thought that it was only the video game-related characters that were getting that treatment. But apparently, either they're using a 3D scanner these days, and they're using cheaper materials to make the figures in the first place, and mainly the joints, because the rest of the figure feels substantial. So if you guys know a fix for broken legs or something, let me know. You know, point me in the direction of someone I can send this figure to so they can repair his leg and it won't come loose again. You know what I'm saying? And I can still pose him, etc., etc. Because I really like everything else, but this QC shit with DC Collectibles is really pissing me off. This is about what? The second or third, might even be more than that. I've had, let's see, Talia was the first one, Deathstroke was the second, and now him. And those were 3 of the last DC Collectibles figures that I've bought in the last couple months. Maybe, yeah, last, 4 or 5 months. So, suffice to say, I'm not buying any more of this line. You know what I mean? I'm going to wait a while until I see reviews where they say they've improved the build quality of these figures. You know, as cool as he looks in comparison to Mattel's Owlman, Mattel's Owlman stood up to me posing him a handful of times and, you know, doing a review and then putting him on my shelf and him even falling off the shelf a couple times. This kind of shit, you paid $25, almost $30, and the figure can't stand up to your basic posing? Like, what the fuck is that about? I mean, it's almost, I don't know, it feels like we're being gypped when it comes to this. I mean, you saw with Deathstroke fucking shoulder piece just popping off when you put him in a basic pose. Like, if this is supposed to be a statue, because I know we got accustomed to that being what DC Collectibles was all about. If they're supposed to be statues, then make statues. You know what I'm saying? Stop giving them articulation. Stop dressing them up as action figures. Now, the fucked up thing is that I didn't even break the figure while, like, playing, per se. I wasn't choreographing a fight scene. I wasn't, like, reenacting something that would involve a lot of friction or anything. I was literally posing him. This is the most that I've even touched this figure since I bought him. He's been sitting in the background. He hasn't fallen or anything. He's been standing in the background for literally since I got him. So it kind of pisses me off that when I actually sit down to do the review, boom, there goes a leg. You know what I'm saying? Boom, there goes armor on Deathstroke. Boom, there goes, you know, the arm on Talia. What the fuck? Like, this clear joint bullshit needs to stop. So I can't say 100% I would recommend this figure. I would only recommend it if you're going to leave him in the box, because then no friction and you won't necessarily hurt the figure. But then again, that's not necessarily using the toy for what he is worth. I'm a firm believer in, you know, using things for what they were meant to be used for. He is a toy. He's meant to bring joy to the person who buys the figure. You know what I'm saying? You want to play with the toy, you should be able to play with him and not be fearful that he can't stand up to the basic, the most basic, like, you give him all that articulation. It's over 14, what is that? Yeah, it's about 14, maybe a little bit over 14 points of articulation, and he can't possibly, like, stand up to you just putting his legs, you know, a little bit further apart than most DC collectibles figures have ever been able to do. That's fucking bullshit, you know what I mean? You know, and it pisses me off that I've done all these videos where you see the figure break, or I point out that it broke during the review, and I don't break my figures. I mean, I've been collecting figures for almost my entire life. I have figures that are from 1989 that, you know, this was when I was still bumping figures together and making them fight, or making Batman punch the shit out of my Joker figures. And I've got the same Batman I had back in those days, and he's in fine condition. No limbs came off, nothing. I mean, these are figures that are well over 20 years old, and I get this shit that was made, like, last month. This fucking year. And it can't stand up. To this we say no. As Angry Joe would say, no. 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 This is bullshit. It fucking needs to stop. Make them with metal joints if you have to. Make them with really thick, regular ABS, not this clear shit. Anyway, I've bitched enough. You've seen my misfortune with DC Collectibles. I say stick to the Mattel ones if you're gonna play with the figure and pose them. If not, buy this. Put it in a box, leave it in the box, and leave it on your shelf. I am Strident. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Peace outside.